The world after the collapse had lost its shape, nations had fractured, cities stood as half-ruined carcasses of concrete and glass, and the sky never quite cleared from the thick veil of ash that drifted in the high atmosphere. Survivors called it the long dusk, for the sun could not fully pierce through the haze. In the midst of this ruin, myths began to take root, myths of machines that survived when men did not. One of them was known only as Echoframe. No one knew if Echoframe had been a weapon, a guardian, or an experiment gone wrong. Some said it was the last of the thinking frame as autonomous machines that learned, remembered, and grew beyond their code. Others whispered that it was neither steel nor flesh, but something between. To most scavengers, Echoframe was just a story to frighten children around the fires at night. But to the hunters of the Reclaimer Guild, it was a contract. And to Kade Rourke, that contract was his last chance at redemption. Kade had once worn the sigil of the Iron Phalanx, a military order that had collapsed and disgraced during the last days of the border wars. He carried scars, both visible and beneath the skin. His left eye was a glass implant that flickered when he focused too hard, and his arm from shoulder to wrist was etched with the marks of burns. He had been blamed for a failed assault that left hundreds dead. Ever since, he wandered from job to job, a mercenary whose name carried weight but little respect. So when the guild offered the bounty alive or dead on Echoframe, Kade did not hesitate. The hunt began in the ruins of Callum's Verge, once a sprawling trade hub. Now it was a labyrinth of collapsed buildings and makeshift camps where survivors bartered in scrap and blood. Kade moved with caution, his rifle slung across his back, his steps echoing against cracked pavement. Rumors pointed to movement in the northern sectors, as shadows too precise, footprints too heavy to be human. On the second night, as he camped in the husk of a fallen tower, he heard it. Not footsteps, not breathing, but an echo like the sound of metal striking stone, replayed seconds later in a softer tone. It was disorienting, as though the world itself was answering him back. Kade froze, hand on his weapon, waiting. In the distance, something shifted. A silhouette crossed a gap in the wall, tall and angular, its movement too fluid for a machine and too deliberate for a man. Kade tracked it for hours, careful not to give chase too soon. The creature or constructa moved without haste, as though it knew it was being watched and did not care. Finally, when the ash cloud moonlight revealed it clearly, Kade's heart stilled. It was not a simple machine. Its frame was humanoid, yes, but interwoven with plates that shimmered faintly, as though absorbing a weak light. Its head had no face, only a smooth mask that rippled when it turned, and from its body emanated that faint, repeating echo, as if reality itself bent in response to its presence. Echoframe. Kade raised his rifle, but the machine turned its head slightly, as though acknowledging him, and then slipped into shadow. He followed, teeth gritted, realizing in that moment the hunt would not be about speed or firepower. It would be about patience. The days turned into a relentless pursuit. Echoframe never attacked, never fled outright, but always stayed just far enough ahead to lure him deeper into the ruins. Kade found evidence along the way, scraps of old tech fused together, pieces of armor scorched by energy burns, murals painted by desperate hands on cracked walls, depictions of a tall, faceless guardian watching over families. Some worshipped it, some feared it. The truth was always just beyond reach. At night, Kade dreamed of voices. They whispered in broken static, calling him by name, sometimes in the voices of his fallen comrades. When he woke, he always heard the faint echo of footsteps fading into the distance. On the 12th day, exhaustion nearly broke him. His supplies dwindled, and the city seemed endless. That night, he cornered Echoframe near the old rail yards. It stood upon the tracks like a sentinel, watching as sparks from some hidden power source lit the air. "Do you even understand what you are?" Kade shouted into the stillness. For the first time, Echoframe answered. Its voice was not a voice, but a resonance inside his skull, like hearing memory turned into sound. "I am the reflection of your pursuit." Kade staggered. "You a broken bar you can think? I can remember." That was worse somehow. He raised his rifle, fingers trembling. "Then you know why I'm here. You hunt me because they fear me, because they do not understand." "As they did not understand you." The words struck deeper than any bullet. Kade's shame rose like bile in his throat. Memories of his failure, the ambush, the flames, the screaming voices crashed down on him. His commanders had not understood his warnings, and his men had died for it. And now here he stood, facing something hunted for the same reason. Echoframe did not move, it simply waited. Kade lowered the rifle. Not fully, but enough. If you're more than they say, then prove it. What do you want? The machine tilted its head. The air hummed with that strange echo, a vibration that made the steel tracks sing. I want to leave this grave. But to leave, I must pass through the hands of those who would cage me. If you hunt me to deliver me to them, you complete their cycle. If you walk beside me, you break it. The choice seared itself into Kade's bones. He could return with proof of the kill and reclaim his honor, or he could betray the guild, walk with the unknown, and risk everything on trust. For 3 more days, he wrestled with the decision, trailing Echoframe not as a predator but as a shadow. And in that time, he saw a Tacta protecting the cluster of starving children from raiders, disabling a rogue war drone without destroying it, leaving caches of salvaged food in the open where the desperate might find them. This was no mindless weapon. It was something a broken bar more, something the world had no place for. When the Reclaimer Guild finally caught up, bringing firepower and steel, Kade stood in their path. The leader, a hard-eyed woman named Vra, spat at him. You were hired to bring it down, Rourke. Step aside. He tightened his grip on the rifle. It's not what you think. It's not a monster, Vra sneered. It's tech we can't control. That makes it a threat. Behind him, Echoframe stood silent, the echoes rippling faintly like a storm preparing to break. The guild raised their weapons. Kade's decision came not from logic, nor from duty, but from a surge of something long buried, a faith, not in the machine, but in himself, in his ability to choose differently this time. He fired first. The battle was chaos, gunfire roaring, ash filling the air, the shriek of ricochets blending with the rising hum of Echoframe's power. The machine did not slaughter, but disarmed, disabling weapons with precision strikes, turning the fight into confusion rather than massacre. Kade fought at its side, instincts sharp as the old days, every motion fueled by the need to protect rather than to atone. When the dust settled, the guild survivors fled into the ruins, cursing his name. Vra lay bound, glowering up at him. You've damned yourself, Rourke. There's no going back. He looked at Echoframe. The machine's faceless mask shifted faintly, almost like a nod. Maybe that's the point, Kade said. Together, they left the rail yard behind, moving toward the edge of the dead city where the sky hinted at light. Whether Echoframe was salvation, danger, or something in between, Kade no longer cared. For the first time in years, he was not running from his pasta, he was choosing his path. And as they vanished into the long dusk, the faint echo followed them, not as a warning, but as a promise.